Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Senator Landers, Senator Johnson. It's a real honor for me to be here today, following obviously your comments on both of your worthy projects and Senator Inouye's comments. I know you've got a lot to cover. I know in a little while my good friend, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security for the Commonwealth of Virginia, Secretary Terry Suit, will get a chance to make a presentation, a longer presentation. I had the good fortune when I was governor to then Delegate Suit served in our General Assembly, and I hope you will pay close attention to her comments. I'm going to be very brief. I know you've got a full agenda, but I hope the brevity of my comments won't make up for the passion I feel about the issue I'm going to talk to you about. And demonstration of that passion is, today is Wear Green for Fort Monroe Day, and you'll see some of the fellow Virginians here, and let me assure you, trying to find a tie this vibrantly green other than St. Patrick's Day would be one demonstration of my commitment to this issue. So, Mr. Chairman, I ask that my full statement be included in the record.
Without objection.
So let me say very briefly, I'm here to speak on a bill I've co-sponsored with Senator Webb, the Fort Monroe National Historical Park Establishment Act of 2011. This legislation would authorize the Park Service to establish a national park presence at the fort to preserve historic and natural resources for all to enjoy. I just want to make 3 quick points and fuller description in my full statement. First, not unlike the 2 very worthy projects that Senator Johnson and Senator Landrieu mentioned, Fort Monroe has a unique and important history stretching back over 400 years. I'm not sure even Senator Landrieu's presence goes back 400 years. The first fortifications at the site, then known as Point Comfort, were built by colonists in 1609. And in 1619, the first Africans to arrive in the New World landed at Old Point Comfort. Nearly 250 years later, the site where slavery started in America helped shape the beginning of its end. During the Civil War, Fort Monroe, which is, for any of you who've ever traveled down to Virginia Beach, and right before you go through the traffic in the tunnel, off to the left there in the city of Hampton, good job, is this presence, and we hope you'll come to Virginia often. But Fort Monroe had a strategic role as one of the few Union military installations in the South that was never occupied by Confederate forces. When the fort's commander, General Benjamin Butler, classified slaves who were able to reach Union lines as contraband of war, Fort Monroe became a site of hope for thousands of enslaved persons seeking freedom. General Butler's, quote, contraband of war, unquote, declaration helped change the course of the Civil War in our nation's history. And there's an extraordinary story of slaves, enslaved people who literally left building Confederate embankments, got into the fort, and this general who was there, kind of making a legal opinion on the fly, decided rather than sending these individuals back, which was still before the Emancipation Proclamation, these folks he could have legally, quote unquote, legally sent them back to incredible hardship and potentially death, decided instead to classify individuals as contraband of war. And by midway through the war, literally thousands and thousands of enslaved individuals across the region escaped to Fort Monroe. Subsequently, after the Civil War, Fort Monroe became a partial place for the imprisonment, actually, of Jefferson Davis, and played an important role in World War I, World War II. Many, many worthy locations vying for national park status, but we would put Fort Monroe, at least from Virginia's standpoint, at the top of that list. And I would add, the governor and the mayor would be here today, but they are making this case personally, I believe, to the president who is in the city of Hampton today. Second point I'd just like to make is that the city of Hampton, the complete bipartisan congressional delegation, our governor, and all of the local citizens are united in supporting a future National Park Service presence at Fort Monroe. A successful partnership at the local, state, and federal levels is critically important for the future preservation of the site, and the Park Service has strong partners in the Commonwealth of Virginia and the Fort Monroe Authority. This was recently, until a few years back, a military site that got turned back to the state through the last BRAC process, when the 69th governor of Virginia was dealing with the Commonwealth. Finally, you want to know who that was? That was I won't mention who that was. Finally, the creation of a National Park Service unit at Fort Monroe would support local jobs, burst tourism, and provide an urban park attractive to local and out-of-state visitors alike. Fort Monroe is a true cultural and historical treasure and the fitting home for a new National Park Service unit. I'm grateful for the committee for its opportunity to express my support for this legislation, and I look forward to working with you to enact this legislation to create a national park at Fort Monroe. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.